Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to the TFT Perspective. Viewers, the US presidential elections are going to be held on 5th November 2024. To be fair, a lot of analysts are suggesting that it's like choosing between two evils. Whoever decides is going to be either the winner, whether it's going to be the lesser evil or it's going to be the greater evil. So, uh, as compared to the overall electoral college, as well as how precisely these elections are going to be held, which are the swing states, as well as which are the traditional Republican states, as well as Democrat states, what's the status of the current polls that are taking place right now. They suggest a very different story. It's going to be a very tough competition. Please do watch this video.
Generally, the US elections are stereotyped as a battle between the Democrats and the Republicans. And in this election, it's Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. But there are, I think, very, very important factors based on what has been the trend in the past, what are the issues being discussed this year, and what's going to be the ultimate calculation and the numbers. Now, all told, it's very important that the next president must get at least 270 electoral college votes, and that I'll explain that what is electoral college. And anyone crossing the figure of 270 would be the next president of the United States of America. Now, as the history goes, electoral college was basically the people who represented both parties, and in olden time, they'll be voting, and then if a particular party, let's say one from Texas, they will get all the 40 delegates and they will go to Washington and vote there. But now this thing has been discontinued, but electoral college stays there. Now, if you look at the map of the United States here, mainly we have the states marked in black, and if you look at the number of electoral college votes, they are also given in case of states with them in white or black. Now, if you look at United States map, it's divided into different zones. You have the northeast, then you have the Midwest, and then you have the larger west, and then is the south. And if you look at the party position, it's quite divided. And by and large, it appears that eastern and western coast is with Democrats, and in the center, you have a large expanse of Republicans, which basically is depiction as far as the map is concerned. However, if you look at the electoral college votes, there are giants like if you start from the west, you have California with 54 seats, you have Texas in the south with 40 seats, 40 electoral votes, and then you have Florida with 30. So these are huge giants, and it makes a lot of difference. Now, overall, if you look at the current trends as well as the past voter trend, there are three colors shown here. Blue states are by and large going to go Democrat, maybe with some minor changes, but by and large this has been the voter trend. And the red states are going to go to Republicans or Donald Trump. However, there is another most important factor, that is the swing states. And these are basically shown in yellow. So from the west you have Nevada, Arizona, and if you go to Midwest you have Wisconsin, Michigan, and then you come to the northeast, you have Pennsylvania, and the south you have North Carolina and Georgia. So all told, these states constitute almost 95 electoral votes. So it's a huge number, and it's very difficult to predict that who's going to win from these states. The current trends, as we have basically gleaned from analysis on US and international media, indicate that this year Wisconsin and Michigan are likely to go to Kamala Harris. So it means that they'll be getting 25 electoral votes from here. And if you look at the west, you have Nevada and Arizona also going to Kamala Harris. So it means that this chunk goes to the Democrats. In the South, North Carolina and Georgia are likely to go Trump. So it means he gets 32 votes. And finally, we are left with Pennsylvania with 19 votes. Now, if you calculate the blue states' votes and the swing states going to Kamala Harris, this becomes 268, just 2 votes shy of she becoming the president of the United States. But if you add North Carolina and Georgia, Trump goes to 251. So it means that, uh, calculating all the odds, the state of Pennsylvania is going to most probably become the decisive state with 19 votes. So anyone, let's say if Trump gets it, he crosses the 270 mark. And if Kamala Harris gets it, definitely she's going to win. So this is, I think, a very, very tightly contested election. And all eyes are on Pennsylvania, 19 electoral votes. And even if you look at the last campaign in last 2 weeks, there have been a lot of emphasis on Pennsylvania. Trump has done a lot of rallies there, and Kamala Harris is also trying to. And I think Trump did say that finally it's going to be Pennsylvania. So let's see how the American voter votes, and finally who becomes the next president of the United States on 5th November.
So, in order to discuss this, quagmire, we have with us Mr. Wakar K. Korvi. Sir, overall, when you look at the general polls which are suggesting that the elections are going to be very close, but the issues surrounding the elections, we heard about the presidential debates, very, I would say, absurd outcome of such debates, personal attacks against each other. Candidates like Trump and Kamala Harris seem to be very smart, but their campaign leads, the people connected to them, are very smart, like Elon Musk on one hand, and then we can see the former President Barack Obama leading Kamala Harris's campaign. So overall, when it comes to the voters, what is the general trend? What do the voters in America want from both parties?
I think it is. It's always very, very important because U.S. elections actually determines the U.S. internal and external policy and affects the entire globe. So that's why there's so much of focus. Of course, this year was full of action at international level and domestic issues, and Donald Trump is bouncing back. But as I think we have seen in the video, that it's very, very even battle, and probably it's going to be the swing
So one
states.
state is going to decide the
Maybe
elections.
the one state, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania decides that. But I think we need to also incisively discuss what are the issues, as you mentioned. It's very, very important. Now, by and large, there are definitely foreign policy is one major factor, but by and large, the issues are more domestic. So we've taken help from Pew Research carried out recently, and Pew Research is one of, I think, the best as far as trends are concerned. So I'll just read one of their reports which was published recently. Now, if you look at, let's say, Trump voters, what are the kinds of, I think, issues that they are focused. So, and then we compare it with let's say Democrats. So here we have economy. 93% of Trump voters say that economy will be a major factor, and in case of Harris, Kamala Harris, it is 68. So it means that economy is going to be a major factor for the Republican voters. Healthcare, 76% for Donald Trump, and then 55% for Kamala Harris. Maybe here again, sorry, it is other way around. It's 55% Trump and 76% healthcare, and mainly it's issue of abortion and pro-life and all that. Then also Supreme Court appointments. Again, here more voters for Kamala Harris are focused, like 73% and 54% for Trump. On foreign policy, Trump voters are more concerned, like 70% would like to consider foreign policy as a major factor, whereas in case of Kamala Harris, it is 54%. Now, on violent crime, again, because there are reports that in last 4 years, violent crimes has increased.
Yeah.
And that's where I think Trump voters are focused, 70%. In case of Kamala Harris, they are 54%. sorry, 76%, 46%. On immigration, there is a huge division. Trump voters, 76% feel that immigration is a major issue.
Mhm.
Whereas in case of Kamala Harris, it is only 39%. And we know how Democrats have actually liberalized the immigration. And Trump was even building a wall on the Mexican border. And this is a huge issue. And Trump is also, I think, in the campaign, even Elon Musk joined it. There are, they've shown videos of, violent crimes being done by immigrants. So they're trying to target it. On gun policy, it's almost even 53% for Trump and 59% for Kamala Harris. But that, there is a gun lobby which by and large
Yes,
supports the
yes.
Republicans. You find that I have seen, for last 5 year boards written on highways that, let's say this is the 360th day, with basically mass shooting or gun violence. So it means it's almost a daily business. And if
Mhm.
you look at the gun violence, you find almost every second day there is some mass shooting taking place. On abortion, again, Kamala Harris, 67%. So it's an issue. But for Trumpsters, it is like 35%. Racial and ethnic inequality, 56% for Kamala Harris and 18% for Trump's voters. And climate change, major issue for the Democrats, 62%, and for Trumpsters are not bothered.
Mhm.
Trump talked about, clean coal, and he feels that irrespective of whatever happens, he should allow, use of coal in industry and even I think fracking and shale gas and all that. So these are I think some of the trends, but we'll have to see finally how it affects the elections.
Yeah, when you perceive the overall demographics inside United States of America, there are a lot of old voters, but the major confusion lies that if the younger generation can provide some dent, whether it be on the Democrat side or whether it be on the Republican side, as you mentioned, that immigration is a serious issue for the Republicans as well as for the Democrats in different language of spheres. How do you foresee trends building up for young voters this time around in the US elections?
One, young voters are going to be a major factor, but somehow if you look at some of the surveys which came up, like one of it was done by one of the universities, and I think in Illinois. So this also indicates that although there are issues, but somehow 38% of the young voters are confused,
Mhm.
or they feel that probably their vote is not going to make any difference. So I think this is a very large
Alarming
number.
situation for
Yeah, large
US.
number.
Hmm.
And there are also some of them are least likely to vote. So it means that nearly half of the young voters in some of the states may go waste. And that's why I think both sides are now trying to prod the young voters. They're
Hmm.
trying to connect with that. So we'll see, in the last week now, 5th November, it's just matter of last week, that basically is going to be how they are going to basically involve. Now we come to the issues for young voters. Inflation has been a major issue, because they feel that in terms of normal day-to-day life, gas prices, although commodity prices have gradually come down as we get closer to elections. It's a very interesting trend. But by and large, paying their fees, let's say if they are half working and half studying, so inflation is a big issue. Now, if you look at the overall, I think trend, it will depend on how the both parties or the candidates pull the young voter. And if you look at their, let's say, economic issues discussed by both sides, especially targeting the young voters, President Trump's economic plan centers on radical shift in trade policy, plans to eliminate taxes on tips and social security benefits, and also as a proposal to significantly reduce the corporate tax rate according to time, let's say.
Hmm.
And this basically he feels that he opens a new window. Now Trump also asserts that these measures will not only basically restore jobs has been a major problem to American soil, but also reduce inflation. And he also wants that it should be more controlled by the president of the White House on Federal Reserve. So this is,
Hmm.
I think, very, very important. Now, on the Kamala Harris side, she proposes addressing higher prices at the grocery store by attacking what she says is price gouging. And this, I think, she's mentioned in a number of rallies. That basically it is those who are running the grocery stores at a time, there are companies, big corporations who increase the prices. So she's going to target that. And then, of course, she feels that they should be targeting businesses that are not playing by the rules.
Hmm.
And maybe it is hinting to Elon Musk and
Yeah.
billionaires and all those tycoons. And basically, she's talked of housing affordability, reducing healthcare cost, and then of course revising Trump's signature tax cuts. So
Yeah.
let's see how basically it figures out.
Yeah, other than that, like you mentioned, that the economy is of bigger concern for the young voters of today. When it comes to general economic issues inside the United States, we witness that US is like under severe debt, especially when it comes to internal debt situation. It's in trillions and trillions of dollars. It's a never-ending process, and the ever growing inflation rate, which increases the commodity prices, electricity prices, rents have gone up. And that's one of the parts of a bigger campaign by Trump. He said that during my rule such things were not happening, rents were subdued, the inflation rate was very less as compared to what's in Joe Biden's rule. So he's taking advantage out of that. If he comes up, then he's going to do the same thing. But if we witness what the US is doing at a foreign level, it's quite difficult to keep a close eye on foreign issues and deal with issues related to internal structures of the economy at home, because you are throwing away a lot of public treasury outside of United States rather than focusing inside. So what do the general public inside US feel about this?
I think there should be a smaller comment, and then we move forward to
Yeah.
foreign policy. Current debt is now crossed $35 trillion.
Yeah.
If you look at US GDP is I think 23, $24 trillion. So it means it's already crossed. And it used to be, I remember in George Bush Jr.'s time, I think $16 trillion was the limit that they will not allow it to cross, and now it's more than double.
Hmm.
And there are reasons, like if you look at cost of Iran and Iraq war, it runs into a couple of trillions of dollars. In Ukraine also, I think they are now touching, I think it's 500 to 700 billion dollars, and maybe next year it will be crossing. And then is the let's say Israel-Palestine war,
Yeah.
again consuming huge exchequer. And then of course is the military-industrial complex, new weapon systems, preparation for Indo-Pacific. Now on the foreign policy, I think there are 4 or 5 important issues, and which have actually directly impacted even the domestic scene. One is, of course, Israel-Palestine war, and it has, I think, impacted Joe Biden so much internally. You've seen, protests by youngsters. You've seen in universities like Harvard. You've seen in, even Ivy League university like Columbia, students coming out in
Yeah.
support of Palestine, and then some of their, let's say, professors being thrown out by the, let's say, CEOs of the universities, because some of major Ivy League universities are funded by, I think, Jewish lobby.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of pressure, and we've seen. So this is also, I think, going to be a major, very interesting factor. So other thing is that how Biden has handled Israel-Palestine war. On one side, they are aiding, let's say, Israel billions of dollars. Like we have seen, I think last week there was a package of $5.2 billion. And this is never ending. They say it's a hollow basket with no bottom, and the
Money keeps
billions of
on
dollars
flying.
you put
Yeah.
in, it's going to go waste. The other is the Russia-Ukraine war. Now, this has also taken a heavy toll of American domestic politics, because there was a mass migration in the last 3 years from Ukraine.
Hmm.
And if you look at the pattern, of course, I think 10 million Ukrainians are now out of Ukraine. Definitely, Europe absorbed maximum, but then definitely there are Ukrainians who landed up in United States. And then you have, invasion coming from illegal immigrants from South America, crossing through Mexico. And even from Canadian American border, there are, immigrants crossing illegally. So this is a huge problem. Then, of course, how it has impacted the economy. As I said, that if you calculate West and US put together, it's more than 5 to 600 billion dollars already spent on Russia-Ukraine war. So it has definitely affected the domestic economy, and it appears that it's again unending. So it means, and then of course, if you look at Trump's policy and Biden's policy, there's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Trump said that if he was there would have been no war.
Yeah.
I think he has also some personal chemistry with President Putin, which is very good. And he's been very critical of, let's say, Hunter Biden's, sojourn
He's
to
been very
Ukraine.
critical of Zelensky also.
Zelensky also.
Yeah.
And there have been also assassination attempts on Trump linked to, reportedly, I'll not say it that this is how it is, but it is linked to Russia-Ukraine war, that probably There are some agents in the, let's say, US deep state or establishment which don't want Trump because it's going to change the policy drastically. So I think this becomes a major issue. Then, of course, our relationship with the EU, on NATO, Trump was very tough that they have to foot the bill. And if they don't do it, he said that we don't need NATO or something like
Yeah.
that. But there's also, if you look at the connection transatlantic, especially between, let's say, UK and United States, and then I think Europe and United States, if you look at the immigrants, initial immigrants, whites, most of them came from Northern Ireland or Germany or France or from Scandinavia. So there are pressure groups which are basically now talking of Russia-Ukraine war. So even I think US-EU relations or US-UK relations are also impacted and are being discussed. Then we come to China and Indo-Pacific. And in that, both presidents have very different policy. Let's say Trump was very tough on that.
Yes.
And I think John Marsheimer suggested that you should not be having two superpowers, or let's say one emerging power and one very strong military power as your enemies. So he also suggested to have a rapprochement with Russia and then target China. So, but I think in Biden's let's say presidency, there was less pressure on China, although the policy has gone. But Trump most probably is going to drastically alter the Indo-Pacific. Again comes the question of India, because in Indo-Pacific it was supposed to be a major player, but somehow the West, irrespective of whether it is Trump or I think Democrats and Biden, they are, I think, highly disappointed with what India has done to them. So India is also figuring out as a negative trend in
Yeah.
US politics. Then is the outsourcing of jobs, basically affects the internal domestic policy, but also relates to foreign policy. That how much, let's say, production can be outsourced. Trump wants everything back. He
Yeah.
wants that "Make America Great Again" or the MAGA, slogan. So it means that I think these are some of the foreign policy issues which are going to deeply impact on the voters, especially in the swing states. Let's see how it figures out.
Yeah. Other than that, can you see that the overall impact the Muslim voters can have inside the US presidential elections? Obviously, we have different ethnicities inside America when it comes to Muslims overall. But by and large, what the analysts are suggesting that a lot of their primary focus is on to preserve immigration as well as to ensure that whoever is the next president does not just completely negate the issues of the Palestinians or their own issues at hand. So can you, say that overall they will have a higher impact this time?
Yeah, I think this is again a very important question. One is there are two reasons, I think, especially in this election. One is historic that demographically Muslims have grown. Their numbers have, if you look at their family system, whether they are from South Asia, whether they are from Middle East, or even European Muslims who go and settle in America, they would like to have a family system and they would like to have more children. So demographically now it's become a factor, but I would say that especially in the swing states like Michigan, if you include Minnesota also at time it swings, Wisconsin and Pennsylvania as we mentioned. So there is a huge population, Muslim proportionate population. So these are concentration of Muslim areas. So it means that Muslims are going to become a factor. And I think for last one decade, Muslim voter impact has started now affecting the US elections. Even if you look at Congress or Senate elections, Muslim vote does count. And now they have also found pressure group. Now coming to the second factor for Muslim vote is Palestinian-Israeli war.
Yeah.
And I'll just go through some of the data that we collected. Like it mentioned that Biden-Harris administration is facing growing dissatisfaction from Muslim Americans, particularly over its handling of foreign policy in the Middle East, especially in the ongoing onslaught on Israel, Gaza. Basically, it's a genocide. Which many Muslim advocacy groups, including the growing Abandon Harris campaign, is also there's an Abandon Kamala Harris campaign going on, have called for voters to reject Kamala Harris due to administration's perceived failure. Although, if you look at Trump's stance on Israel, it's very different. Maybe it's very hard for the Muslims. But who was handling Palestine, Israel was the sitting president. So it was Joe Biden. So Democrats have to basically bear that load. So it means that Muslim voter is dissatisfied, irrespective of what will be Trump's policy. But Trump also claimed that had he been the president, there had been no war between Israel and, let's say, Palestinians. So all told, Muslim vote is going to impact. Then, of course, as I mentioned, that in swing states, like Michigan, Minnesota is going to basically see expanding into states like Georgia also. So it means other than, let's say, swing state. It could affect Georgia also. Again, because of, and then there are urban centers in these states. Basically, there are four which are, I think, very prominent. And there you have large Muslim population, like Detroit.
Yeah.
You have Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and I think even
Even in
Atlanta.
Atlanta, there are a lot of
Yeah.
Muslims there. Yeah.
I would say that this year Muslim vote is going to make a difference.
Yeah. Other than that, when it comes to you saying that Muslim vote is going to make an impact, likewise, what the analysts have been suggesting that overall the picture looks very close at the end of the day. It's going to be Pennsylvania which decides. Is that vote going to impact overall when it comes to the elections? Because if you are suggesting that if Muslims do not at all vote or don't go for the Democrats, or maybe their vote does go to the other side, in that area, don't you think that Donald Trump then would have a very clean slate?
Yeah, I think definitely. As I said, that handling of Palestine-Israel, conflict this year actually started from 7th October last year. Has impacted. So there is definitely a trend away from Democrats. So it's very, very serious because Muslim vote used to be considered as a given vote for Democrats.
Democrats, yeah.
Because there is also issue of immigrants also, and immigration also takes from South Asia, from Middle East, even from Africa. A lot of Muslim. I just forgot to mention that a lot of African.
I mean, one of their congresswoman, Ilhan Umar, is from
Yeah,
Africa.
she's
She's
there, and
Malian.
yeah. Now, I also like to mention about, let's say, Pakistani vote this year, because I think if you count the Muslim votes, then you can also divide. This year, I think they have again started exerting, which I think is a good thing, irrespective of what's their political stance. So we have basically a pressure group called the Pakistani American Public Affairs Committee, or the PAC-PAC. And we have seen, I think, day before yesterday, they went and then they attended Trump's rally, and then they were allowed to, I think, also talk. So there was a Muslim and Pakistani vote going to Trump. So this, I think, there are two issues that they have picked up. One is, of course, they feel that in Joe Biden's term, there was very less focus on Pakistan.
Yeah.
And if you look at, there was no high-level visit. During Trump's time, we had, the Prime Minister going there. And then, of course, even the military command went there. So there was definitely. And then there was U.S. exit from Afghanistan starting. Although it started, basically execution was done in Biden's time, but the plan was already rolling. And US also needs, so Trump, I think, paid a lot of attention on FPAC. But in Biden's time, it has been, I think, very, very cursory touch to Pakistan. Because of various, but now I think they have started picking up. You look at the, let's say, movements of US ambassadors here in Pakistan, or the consulate generals in Lahore or Karachi, you find them, very, very active. Because there is a realization that US has to re-engage. Maybe. But also they are also focusing at democracy. So it means that probably if you look at overall trends in the diaspora, definitely it is becoming a pressure group to start, let's say, pressurizing Pakistan, and they feel that in case Trump comes, then probably they can get something done from that. We'll see it how basically Trump behaves in case he becomes the president. So all told, it's a very, very interesting election, and I think as you mentioned, that maybe ultimately all trends, everything, foreign policy, domestic, is the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
Yes,
which
just
decides
one.
who becomes
It's the
the next
19
president.
electoral votes that are going to decide exactly. So that's it for today, folks. Please do leave a like and subscribe our channel. Thank you so much for watching us. Bye bye.